Vice News video here. Here's why so many QAnon believers also happen to be evangelical Christians. So I'm interested in this connection. Let's see the case that they make.
Evangelical Christians are a huge chunk of the American population. 34%. Well over 100 million people describe themselves as evangelical or born again. And recent studies have shown they're way more prone to believe conspiracy theories than most non-evangelicals. As of January, 27% of white evangelicals said they believed QAnon was completely or mostly accurate, and 49% thought Antifa was responsible for the Capitol violence.
Whoa. That's an amazing number. So they said about 34% of the country are evangelical Christians, and about half of them think Antifa did January 6th. Whoa, my goodness. That's wild. That's a wild number.
It's a striking trend, and one that experts say may be baked into the religion.
You're primed by this fact. Evangelicals are always looking for evidence of the end of the world.
And the early New Testament Christians continually talked about and looked forward to that day, or the day, or the last days.
Evangelicals want the end of the world to happen. They're not afraid of it. They embrace it. And when you're embracing it, you're always looking for evidence that it's going to happen, because that keeps your flock in line and keeps them energized and encouraged to keep worshiping, because like, the end's getting closer now. The end's getting closer now. Don't give up.
And when things don't work out as foretold, it's easy enough to explain.
No matter what happens, they're going to keep moving that timeline out. For them, it's going to eventually end in Armageddon, in the end of time. But it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
Sound familiar?
You can't say what all the moves are to the people that are involved.
This doomsday playbook is now integrated into American politics and pop culture.
And even if you're not evangelical, there's been so many movies about the end of the world.
Yeah, it sort of seeped out of the evangelical, foundation and into all parts of American society. And that really picked up about 150 years ago. There was a guy named John Darby who had this idea called dispensationalism, which is the idea that there's going to be a rapture.
Strong-ass word, by the way. Dispensationalism? Strong-ass word. It makes me want to know a lot more about it. And it makes me want to find a way to use it.
The Left Behind series that was really popular, Kirk Cameron was in the movie, that comes from Darby's idea. And that really became mainstream evangelical in the last 30 or 40 years with the writing of that book.
Thanks to you, millions have heard the truth. Thanks to God.
This isn't...
That's like literally the worst acting I've ever seen in my life. Oh my God.
That new when you think about the American context. Can you give me that sort of like 400-year zoom out about where we're at with this?
So even going back to the colonial period, for instance, when Thomas Jefferson was running against John Adams actually said that he was the Antichrist. And there were little old ladies in New England who buried their Bibles while he was president because they were terrified that he was really the Antichrist and going to take their Bibles away. And it's like...
Okay. My immediate thought, hearing that fact, is that like... And this shouldn't be surprising, but it's just a reminder that politics has always been fucking insane. It's always been insane. Like, I'm thinking of remember when Trump said that Obama was, quote, the founder of ISIS? And he said it like 1,000 times and then doubled down and tripled down when the media pushed back on him. That's like some similar shit, Or when, Alex Jones said that Hillary or Obama were demons and they smell like sulfur. It's like, this shit has always been going on.
Every 50 years or so, someone finds a new way to sort of reinvent it, dig it up, revitalize it, and give it to a new audience in a new way, right? So we had the Great Awakening where pastors were preaching to thousands of people in fields all across America, talking about the end of time and sinners in the hands of an angry God and all these things. But then it evolves from there, right?
Is coronavirus a sign of the end times?
And if you really think about it, the internet is just an extension of guys like George Whitefield in the fields back in the Great Awakening, right? It goes from him to radio, to television, now to TikTok.
Jesus is coming back.
Oh, God.
He will be coming in the clouds.
The problem with...
Imagine following that person unironically. Yeah, I like to get life advice and theories from this one.
Today's messaging? It's not just about the coming end times. Often, evangelical influencers and politicians are spreading partisan messages cloaked in religious rhetoric.
Smash the delusion, Father, of Joe Biden as our president. He is not.
Right after the attack on the Capitol, 41% of white evangelicals said they either somewhat or completely agreed with the statement, if elected leaders will not protect America, the people must do it themselves, even if it requires taking violent actions.
Pastors are cowards because they have to be, because I can lose my job for any reason at any time without any legal recourse. They could fire me because of the shirt I wore on Sunday. So what pastors do is they try to be as bland and vanilla and non-controversial as possible. And the reality is that opens up this space for other voices to get in and influence their congregation. So instead you hear Hannity and Carlson and, everybody else, right? You don't get that Christian perspective because Christian pastors just don't talk about it.
The flock is leading the shepherd.
Yeah. And I have many friends who say, listen.
That's an interesting point because, so I was raised Catholic. Now, granted, they're talking more about, Protestants here than Catholics. But I do remember when I was a kid and my mom would take me to church that it was phenomenally boring. It was so boring. I mean, they would just read from the book of the Corinthians. And Jesus said unto them. And you'd listen and be like, God, I don't know how anybody likes this shit. And I mean, that's sort of what he's talking about there. I guess in certain denominations or at most churches, they try to be as bland and vanilla and inoffensive as possible. And then that does leave a lane wide open for, fire and brimstone preachers who can gain a bigger following and be more charismatic, but also are just batshit insane.
Fox gets them for 14 hours a day. I get them for an hour a week. So what can I do in an hour a week to match the 14 hours a day? And I think for most pastors, the answer is just give up. So now religion is viewed through a political lens, not the other way around. Politics has become religion now for lots and lots of people. I have a lot of evangelical friends who say Democrats are not just wrong, they're evil.
I don't hate anyone. I was raised in a way that is a heart full of love, and always prayed for the president. And I still pray for the president. I pray for the president all the time. So don't mess with me when it comes to words like that.
To vote for a Democrat as a sinful act. That's never been that way in American history before. And unfortunately, pastors don't speak into that. They don't try to redeem that language. They don't try to make people see both sides. In 1978, 50% of white weekly churchgoers were Democrats. 50%. Today, it's 25%, right?
Wow.
The church was better when it had Democrats and Republicans sitting side by side. And now it's just all one thing. It's all one flavor all the time. And I think the church is worse for it.
Yeah, that was an interesting video. I mean, they're basically talking about the evangelical Christian to QAnon pipeline. And there's definitely something there. There's definitely something there. But I'm surprised that at this late date, I get the idea of somebody being religious or even super religious. It can come from, you just come from a super religious family or you find some sort of community there. And so I understand that. I can get why people go down that road. I will never understand the QAnon thing, and I will never understand people who buy into the most extreme conspiracy theories, because, the thing about the most extreme conspiracy theories are they instantly are disproven. The people who said, the end of the world is going to be, whatever, what was it, December 12th or December 21st, 2012, and then it just didn't happen, and then, again, people just move the goalposts and act like they never said it. You had some conspiracy theory. I forget which guy it was, which televangelist. I think it was John Hagee, but the 4 blood moons or 7 blood moons or whatever. I remember covering this on the show. It's and the world's going to end, and it's going to end soon, and then it just didn't, and then they just moved the goalposts. And so I'm actually not taking a shot at all conspiracy theories, because some just, in due time, turn out to be true. We did the Tuskegee experiments. That happened. Operation Paperclip, we hired a bunch of Nazis after World War II. That's a fact. Bay of Pigs, etc., etc. There are ones that are real, so I'm not besmirching all conspiracy theories. But the people who go into the most extreme ones, like QAnon, which they just repeatedly get shit wrong. Weren't they saying that Trump is going to be back by X date, and then that date doesn't come, and then they just say, well, now he's going to be back by this other date, and then it doesn't come, and then they're like, all right, well, just keep following us anyway. And if you're still following them, it's you just want to be a sucker. But I think the reality is what these people feel is, I know a truth that you don't know, so I'm special. You know, I know something that you don't know yet that maybe you'll catch up to eventually, but you don't know it right now. So that makes me special and me knowledgeable. And so there's just a really big identity part to it. And to see that there's a evangelical Christian to QAnon pipeline, that I think is even more evidence for this identity angle to why they believe what they believe and why they do what they do. But anyway, interesting video. Wanted to share with you guys.